So I guess I'm going to start. I'm not going to wait we got a pretty full crowd, which is a good thing. My name is Musa Beidas, and I am coming from Wolf Olins. Just a raise of hands, how many people have heard of Wolf Olins? One person. Work to do. I'm a designer based at Wolf Olins, and more of a design evangelist as well. So for those of you who don't know what that means, a design evangelist is a fancy term for someone who meddles in design as well as strategy and architecture for business models. So it's an amalgamation of all those things. This is going to be a very interactive session. So there's going to be a part of it where I'm kind of babbling on a bit, but then the other half is hopefully for you to take what I'm saying into practice, getting into groups and actually doing something. And hopefully we'd like you to leave this workshop today with something that's tangible and something that you can then apply to your businesses or any ideas that you might have. So I'd like to start with asking you guys a question. Just a raise of hands if you guys feel really strongly about a brand and why. Is there a brand that you really love that you want to talk about? Yes, in the back. Google, yeah. Google's a great one. Why Google? That's a good answer. Anyone else? Amazon. Why?
Great customer service.
Okay. Okay. So it's more of a.
It's not always about the design.
Right. Okay. How do you mean?
I mean, you also have to design the customer experience.
Right.
Or the customer service. Not just you have to design the brand and the logos and the graphics.
Great. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. I was waiting for that. Yeah, Apple's good. Apple's always good. Windows? Okay, here's a new one. Why Windows? Why Windows?
It's easily crackable.
It's crackable. So are you talking from a... Okay, so it's a pretty open platform. Okay. Well, yeah? Sorry?
Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola. And why do you think it's a good brand?
They keep their line of identity through the gate, and they are focused on how they can use the brand and put more than one element around it.
Right?
Experience around the brand.
That's very true. As opposed to someone else who doesn't do that, right? I agree. So what I want to take you to today, I mean, there's some really cool answers, and a lot of these answers are actually some of the points that I like to touch upon today. The main focus I want to go through here is what exactly does brand do for business? What is it about? And how does that impact a startup business specifically? So for starters, what is a brand? How do you define it? Is it something that you can pinpoint from one end to the other? And I want to start by looking at some of these cars. Can you guys kind of recognize what these cars are? Could you look at them and instantly know what they are? Right? Okay. Okay, so you guys can pretty much tell, right? It's pretty obvious, and you didn't need to see this either for you to be able to tell. So brand has a really powerful way of you to sort of understand what something is trying to be or what the emotions are trying to convey by just looking at something. Just as simple as a silhouette of a car can convey what a brand stands for. So in that sense, branding specifically isn't about marketing, isn't about a logo. It's not about a tagline, and it's not about advertising. These things kind of come together eventually, but they are not what makes the brand essence. It's not about what the brand stands for. Brand is a lot more of an emotive response. It's something that is engaging people's psyches. It's something that gets people going and actually invokes an emotion out of them. So brand is more about stand for something rather than looking like something, if that makes sense. So in essence, a brand is a bunch of ideas that a company puts together for their product that stands for something in people's minds. So the consumer actually resonates with what that brand means. So people understand that there are certain emotions conveyed by doing a specific thing or engaging in a specific brand. What's cool about it as well is that it actually shapes the experiences that people go through in life. It leaves milestones in people's minds. It engraves itself in people's memories, which is very, very exciting thought. Something that a tagline or an advertising job can't do all on its own. So branding kind of started in a very, very broad sense way back. So it goes back centuries. And it started with pretty much cowboys or cattlemen who would rear cattle, branding their specific type of meat. Now, what that was supposed to do was let people know whose cows those belonged to. What that eventually ended up becoming is actually becoming a sign of quality. If those cows were from that farmer or that rearer, then that means these cows produce really good meat. That kind of instigated that idea of branding. Later on, people like Kellogg started standing for something. So other people did what Kellogg's did. What Kellogg's did differently was that they actually started talking about the goodness in their product. So what that stands for and how it can enrich your life. Then it went on to emotion. Marlboro did that really well. It's very difficult to sort of escape from the idea of taking a puff of cigarette or bringing nicotine into your body, but actually relating that to a completely different experience, which is, being in the fields of the Midwest or riding a cowboy, riding a horse and being a cowboy. Those kind of emotions that conveyed within the brand was the first of its kind. Then it went into being part of something. Virgin pioneered that. What Virgin did was they didn't just take a logo or an identity from for a specific company. They created an entire mantra around their organization. So being part of Virgin or a service or a product coming from Virgin meant it had to represent something. Then obviously platform brands came to the horizon, like YouTube. So all this is great, but I think what's more important here, what a lot of people in the room want to know is, why should I have a brand? What's important about a brand? How is it going to change my life? What is it going to do for my business? Well, it can do a lot of things. The main ones are pretty obvious. It can generate revenue, so it can actually increase the revenue your company could generate. It can reshape your industry, and that's a big one. So not only are you in it to make money, but you're actually there to leave a memory. You want a legacy. You want something that people will actually realize that you changed something, and you did it for a reason. You have the ability to do that with a brand. You can clarify the decision-making process. A lot of the times when companies like startups have to grow, they grow quite quickly. And the issue there is that how do you make the right decisions that don't end up leading into failures? Do you want to end up being bought out, or do you want to end up running your own industry? All those ideas and all those end goals are very much dictated by what kind of brand or what kind of architecture you have going within your brand. And you can make yourself very desirable, not just from what kind of product or service you have to offer, but the actual working environment you hold. So the possession of a working environment that people look after and actually seek and want to work for. So how can you make money? Well, it's pretty simple. The idea is twofold. So you can generate more money from the outside, or you can actually save money from the inside. So the want factor, or the desire factor of your product, can be generated from a brand. But the great thing also is that the people that actually work for you will have a stronger drive. So they'll want something more. And if you have someone or a group of people, who want something, then that translates to greater profits in the long run. So, the basic idea of having internal impact is just as strong as making your brand as desirable on the outside. So higher revenue from that perspective is you basically get in more customers, you get more people buying more stuff. You can raise your prices, because that means that you're actually giving people something that they want and that no one else has. And you can actually get support from the media. If you have a cool brand and people actually want to be a part of you, then you'll have media companies wanting to associate themselves and actually carry your story. The cool thing that I find, though, in this chart is actually the idea of what you can do internally. And that's something that not a lot of people have been actually focusing on. You can generate a lot more hard work in an environment where people actually want to work for you. So people will actually, for example, I'm sure off the top of my head you could think Google is one of those examples. If you have less employee churn, so if you have less people coming in and out of the organization, that means you have more people in the organization that actually know what they're talking about. The longer they stay in your company, the more they know their brand, the more they know your brand, and the better they can sell it. And obviously, suppliers will want to work with you. They'll give you preferential rates. It's a no-brainer. And at the end of the day, you have lower cost of capital because you have people that are enjoying their job, and they'll look for. They won't be looking as much as how they're going to want a raise, but more about how they're going to want an impact. They want long-term rather than short-term. So here's an interesting example. There's a strategy company called Booz & Co., also known as Booz Allen. They did a study on the current brands that are out there in the market, and 82% of people, or 82% of organizations with really powerful brands make more revenue than any other organization that don't have powerful brands. So the idea there is that there's quite a lot of value in brands. How does it help you make decisions? That's an interesting one. An example of which is IKEA. So IKEA has a very simple proposition. It's democratic. It's designed for democracy. So they actually create furniture that's made for anyone. So it's about taking design and making it available to the masses. Design is no longer something that's unattainable or something that's overpriced. Design is now for everyone. The idea there is that you have a very strong mantra. If you follow that, then making decisions in an internal environment is actually quite simple. The kinds of lines that you use, the kind of designers that you employ, all those things end up falling into place because you have such a strong brand. IKEA do it really well as well. Another example is M&Ms. M&Ms are pretty much chocolate and they're candy. It's very difficult to kind of take something like that and actually make it ownable. And not just ownable, but actually people want to go and see. And a simple way of actually engaging people in a brand like this is kind of like what M&Ms did in New York. There's an entire environment where you can actually live what M&Ms are about. It's about seeking how this translates into a physical world and what those emotions are conveyed within that world. Another interesting way brand can help a business is you can actually create a community around your brand. Now that sounds a lot harder than it is. An example of creating community within a brand is probably one that you guys have already heard of. Airbnb does that really well. Airbnb's integrated model, or their business model, is actually all about engaging the community. It's by the community and for the community. That instantly creates a platform that anyone can actually relate to and anyone can be a part of. That's quite a powerful thing. And obviously Airbnb has been doing really, really well in recent months and in the recent year as well. One of the brands that I'd like to talk to you about as well that have really engaged the community is a brand that we worked on. Has anyone heard of Product Bread? So for those of you who don't know, Product Bread is an organization set up by Bono, who's the lead singer from the band U2. So Bono had an idea of creating a charity for medicinal, so basically for fighting AIDS in Africa. And he wanted to create a brand or a company that would make people want to give their money away. So what we had to do was come up with an idea that would create want and need in a brand, but was also actually beneficial in the long run. So there was a reason why you were paying a premium. The premium wasn't going into people's pockets, but it was actually going into the greater good. It was actually making a difference in the world. And the cool thing about this is that Product Red ended up becoming a platform for a whole roster of brands. So a lot of people latched onto the community that made Product Red what it was. The great thing about that is that you would pay a premium for a specific product made by Gap or Apple that was Product Red badged. What that meant was you're paying a premium for that product because it's a unique color, but also that because it's in limited production as well. But what that meant was you're actually proud of the fact that you paid an extra amount of money because you went and did something good for the world. So it was almost about boasting about doing something that you're proud of. But it was, at the end of the day, it was something for the greater good. Examples, of course, are Converse, which were quite popular, quite a democratic example. Gap was a big one as well, and Gap actually redid a lot of their flagship stores around the world within Product Red in specific days in the year. So that's a pretty exciting way of looking at how you can build a brand in that way and actually build a community around it. Another big thing is attracting talent. If you're going to be a successful startup, you want to be with the right people. You want to make sure that people actually want to work with you, and you want to make sure that they believe in your idea. Two of the companies right now that do that really well are Facebook and Zynga. Facebook does it really well because they created an environment around their brand. Zynga does it really well because it's actually getting people who are really passionate about a specific thing, and that's gaming, and actually creating community around it. I want to show you an example of how Facebook actually does this. Now, this is a very broad, some might say a lot of hot air from Facebook's side. But if you look through the bullshit, mind my language, you'll actually realize that they're trying to say something that no one else has. They're trying to say something that's quite powerful and quite engaging that anyone can attribute to, actually create a community around something.
Chairs. Chairs are made so that people can sit down and take a break. Anyone can sit on a chair, and if the chair is large enough, they can sit down together and tell jokes, or make up stories, or just listen. Chairs are for people, and that is why chairs are like Facebook. Doorbells, airplanes, bridges. These are things people use to get together so they can open up and connect about ideas and music and other things that people share. Dance floors, basketball, a great nation. A great nation is something people build so they can have a place where they belong. The universe. It is vast and dark and makes us wonder if we are alone. So maybe the reason we make all of these things is to remind ourselves that we are not.
Okay, so Facebook is like a chair. You can understand that it's quite broad. You know, a lot of people think about that and think, well, what the hell are you talking about? There's an actual correlation, though, if you think about it. There's an actual correlation between what you saw and the statistic. Regardless of whether Facebook isn't or is like a chair, or whether or not it's as wanted as a chair or as air or as the universe, as the ad says, the truth is that 93% of people that work for Facebook would recommend it. Now, that's a pretty high statistic from an internal sort of case study. Not many people actually have that or possess that kind of power. So what Facebook's managed to do is actually create a platform around that brand, which is really, really impressive, especially in the amount of time that they managed to do it in. So taking all that into account, how do you put all this together? Where do you go from here? You know what you want. You know what kind of internal environment you'd like to have. You know how you want to look like, perhaps. You know what kind of change you want in the world. And you know that you want to end up creating something X, let's say. So how do you bring all those things together? What's the equation? Is there a magic formula? I'm sad to say there isn't a magic formula, but there are ways for you to find your magic formula. I think every single company and every single entrepreneur, every single startup has their own magic formula. One that only works for them, doesn't work for anyone else, but is so powerful that the fact that it's actually connected to just that one startup ends up creating something very, very spectacular. So here's the first thought you need to think about. Giving people an emotional reason to buy. So what does that mean? Well, in basic premise, it's basically the little voice in everyone's head. Why should I buy this? And why should I buy it from you? And there's a very simple way of doing it. Customers want to understand why you exist, and they need to understand why they need you. And there's a very simple way of looking at it. And you can actually look at it from a perspective of a left brain and a right brain kind of thing. Not related to creative versus cognitive or any of that, but it's actually about two very basic, simple propositions. One is the proposition. The other is the actual personality. Those two things coming together actually create something very, very powerful. An example of which is a brand that we also worked on, which is Firefox OS. I'm sure a lot of you have been looking at what they've been doing, which is pretty exciting. Mozilla is the guys who create Firefox, and what they decided to do was now create an open source OS, a first of its kind, that is actually latched onto telco providers rather than telephone manufacturers. So they're kind of putting the power back into telcos rather than giving it to people like Samsung, HTC, etc. The cool thing about this is that we're looking at why they did this. So what is it in the consumer's mind that made them want to create such a different niche for themselves? So the basic premise here is that you need to be able to answer these questions before you let them out in the real world. And so taking on from that, then there's a deeper proposition, because this is pretty broad. I mean, you're looking at this and you're thinking, well, how do I answer this? Where do I start? Because there's a deeper question around this. And the reason is, why can you do this? What makes you so special? What is it about you that you have, that you possess, that makes you think that you can even ask those questions? And that's a pretty interesting thought. It's a very powerful proposition. If you think about it, why basically can you do this? What are you here for? And what you want to achieve all bring one very, very big premise together. It's purpose. The main goal for a brand is purpose. The idea behind purpose, the power behind it, is what will drive your future. It will drive the success of your brand. It will actually make it be all those things that we just saw. And there's a very simple model that we use internally at Wolf Olins that really helps us dig deep into a lot of the proposals and clients that end up coming to us with their issues. A lot of clients come to us talking either from the stage of where there's a guy who has an investment or capital and has an idea but doesn't know where to start, all the way up to Fortune 500 companies that are really successful but want to bump up their share price. Any of these models can actually fit in this very simple formula. So what the world needs is basically looking at the gap. What is it that's missing? Does the world need another Facebook? Does it need another Coke? Does it need another Pepsi? If you can find really strong evidence around why or whether or not it does, then you've got your first part of the butterfly. The second part is, what's unique about you? So irrelevant of the fact of whether or not the world needs you, what's unique about you regardless? So taking you and basically removing you from the equation. What are those special things that make you who you are? I.e., what's your startup about? What is different about you? What is it that you're going to convey? So taking that into account, I want to kind of pose these questions onto you. Now, I'd like you guys to... Okay, so if you've noticed on your tables, you've got bottles of water, and those bottles don't have brands on them, unless you snuck one in. But they don't have brands on them. So what we'd like you to do is get into groups. And I'd like you to look at whoever's next to you. If tables can form groups, that'll be great too. And I want you to kind of look at what we've talked about. And I'd like you to create a brand for this bottle of water that you have in front of you. Now, I don't want you to think about logos, and I don't want you to think about colors. the brand idea is what it is, again, how do you fit it into this butterfly? So you could come up to me and tell me this water is from the planet Krypton and makes people look beautiful. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter, as long as you have the answers to these questions. So if you could look at whoever's next to you, even if you don't know them, get to know them, start writing stuff down. I want you to try and figure out a way of how you can actually create a brand around this. I'm going to be walking around the room if you guys have any questions as well. If anything's gone over your head, please let me know. ما خلصت. Okay. Okay. So, okay, this isn't, hang on just a second before you guys keep going. This isn't an open-ended thing. So I'm going to give you about maybe 10 or 15 minutes to come up with a brand. And then I'd like one person from each group to come up, or wherever you're sat, just talk to us about it, what it is you made. Oh. Okay, so we're gonna have to put our pencils down, and so we're gonna have to put our pencils down. We're gonna ask each group, so either one member of the group, to grab the mic and basically tell everyone else in the room what their idea is. Now, a lot of people in this room. Are you guys done?
Yeah.
Are we good? Okay, so who thought water could be so exciting? So what we're going to do is go around the room, ask one member from each team to grab the mic and actually talk about their idea. A lot of people here are in 2-member groups, so we're going to have to move fairly quickly to get the idea across. So pretty much as you can to answer this butterfly is what we need, just so that people understand what it is. So
We have to answer the question, not sell the vision of our product.
say again?
We have to answer those questions, or we have to describe the product.
If your description of the product makes these questions, or their answers to these questions clear, then that's fine. So who'd like to start? Yeah? Would one member like to come up and sell it? If you don't need to come up, I mean, it's fine. Just imagine everyone naked. It helps.
Do that anyway.
Yeah.
We came up with the concept of slick water. So you can't really innovate so much on the product. Everybody does health benefits. So it comes from the mountains and this and that. So innovate on why you would buy this water. Because so basically slick water is the product is the same, but the packaging is done by local artists. So you buy this water, you pay a premium, as you mentioned, for the Red campaign, to give a portion of the proceeds to local artists. So the bottle, the cap, the art around the bottle is done by local artists, and they submit their designs online, and then we pick a design, and they get a portion of the proceeds of the bottle sold. So what the world needs is more art. The brand purpose is to support local artists. What's special about the water is it supports local artists.
Bang on. Bang on. Really good. Thank you. Really cool. So, I mean, it had nothing to do with, it had really nothing to do with water, but it was excellent because what you did was you took the essence of what that means and actually used it for good for something else, which is great. Lateral thinking. Would you like to go next?
I don't think we have exact. Oh wait, it was clear conscience water.
There you go.
Was that what it was? Anyway, so what the world does
stand
not
over here.
need is another bottle of water, but what the world does need is for the people who've been exploited in the global south by water companies to actually like get some benefits from this sort of exploitation. So our product is like sort of a joke gift, a gag gift that one would buy. And you would pay a premium, and all the proceeds would go to some sort of charity. And the slogan would be something like "Clear Conscious, straight from the taps of the global south" or something. And there would be all these jokes and the thing like made from 100% unrecycled plastic and blah, blah, blah. And it could be tap water from different places in the world. And it's the type of thing that you would buy for your kind of limousine liberal yuppie friends who like to be altruistic, but also don't mind making fun of themselves a little. So you'd get it for them for like $5 as a Christmas gift or something like that. Oh, and what's special about us is that we're making a joke about kind of this faux fair trade, socially conscious consumerism.
Awesome. Really good. Thank you. Really good. Yeah?
So, basically, our idea was to go for eco-friendly water. So basically, the way we look at it, water is a necessity, is not a luxury. It's something that we all need. What we also have is a situation with high pollution levels, and water, plastic bottles is actually contributing to that. So what we would like to do is go for eco-friendly water, where basically you are using local sources every time. So it's an international brand, but it is locally sourced. So if it's in Lebanon, it's Lebanese water. If it's in France, it's French water. So what you don't have is water bottles being shipped across the globe. But you do have the same quality of standard of water, but sourced locally. And within the water purification process, you would be using green energy, so renewable sources, solar, wind, whatever, so that the carbon footprint of every water bottle is reduced as much as possible. So that's sort of how it is.
Awesome. Thank you. Great. Who's next? Yep. Maybe it might be quicker if I just give you the mic, right?
Yeah, sure. So we're designing a bottle of water for athletes.
Turn around.
For athletes.
Why don't you can get on stage if you like.
We're designing a new bottle of water, specially made for athletes. You know, athletes need water rich of minerals and oxygen. Athletes need a bottle of water that they can grip while running or riding the bicycle. Athletes need a bottle of water that can easily be opened and closed. So we're redesigning the package and redesigning the whole concept of drinking while doing sports. The bottle has just the right amount of water that the athlete body needs, 400 to 500 millimeters. So that's it.
Awesome. So packaging is king.
Really?
Okay, there you go. Excellent. So packaging is king. Are you ready?
Yeah, we're called Quench. We're going to quench the thirst of people in areas where water is scarce. Everyone who buys our bottle will be contributing to to the production of portable waste management facilities that will transform sewage water to drinkable water in areas where there are no water. Thanks.
Cool. Thank you. We have 10 minutes left, so sell it to me hard.
Hi, my name is Daniel and I'm with Arabis. Our water is Patrick. This is our brand name. And our water is from melted snow. We decided to do this because it is really the opposite of mineral water. It's coming from the mountain, not from thermal sources. and it's really pure. So what the world needs is pure, fresh drink. And what's special about it, that it's really different.
Awesome. Very good. Okay, excellent. You can pass it back there.
Okay. Hey, everyone. We sort of went all out with this. Everyone's talking about water from Earth. Our water is called Aqua Universe, and it's basically water from space. No, we're not flying to Mars and bringing the water back, but we do have a lot of asteroids that hit the Earth, if anyone was following what happened with Russia a couple weeks back. So from those, we're going to extract the special minerals that come from space, and our water is going to help, with health. It's basically rejuvenating youth and health through special minerals from space. Pretty much.
Awesome. We'll pass it back.
All right, so our idea, well, since they went a little bit all out, we're going into the future a little bit. So what the world needs is water with nanobots in them. So basically, these things can, replenish your body, help heal you, help keep tabs on your health and things like that. And what's special about us is that this is kind of taking water into this, like, transhumanism. So we're taking that to the next level since we're heading towards that singularity. And it has a lot of actually applications, and like it can even be like you're tweeting about your health, just simultaneously because of the nanobots in the water that you're drinking, things like that. So that's ours. Bottom line.
Cool. Very cool. Who's next? Are you guys? Yep.
Hi. Hello. Actually, what the world needs, we thought about what the world needs, and it needs fresh water for everybody. In many places in Africa, they don't really have water to drink. So with our brand, for each bottle you drink, you give another person who doesn't have drinking water a bottle for him or her to drink. So that's what's different about our water.
Very simple, powerful. Thank you. Who's next?
All right. So our water, we just call it 70. And we're not actually reinventing anything about the water. We didn't think about just creating new water. So we just focus on the branding. And it's 70 because this is mineral water. It's thermal water, the water that you didn't like. And it's very natural. It's 70 because almost 70% of your body is water. And it deserves the best water. So the best of you deserve the best water. And so we want to connect you back to the nature because, and of course, also 70% of almost the earth, almost 70% is also water. So it's not a coincidence. Almost. 5% water?
No,
I mean on the surface.
True,
surface area, maybe.
Drinkable or water in general? Water in general. No, I don't think that's true. No. It's fine. There's no wrong answer. It's fine. It's okay. There's no wrong answers. There's no wrong answers.
I mean the cover. Okay. So what yeah. Okay.
Okay. That's okay.
Anyway.
It's a very exciting proposition.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so that's it. I mean, we just want you to connect the best of you, the most of you, back to the nature, and it's not only about the purest water; it's the best water for you.
Great.
That's it. Thank you.
Excellent. The lady over there, I think.
Okay, so I'm not the lady over
there.
No,
it's fine.
Okay, so I'm gonna come up here. Okay, our water is called...
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. You got a winner.
Our water is called slender. Slender, it's mean... Does anyone know what it's mean? Slender? Yes. Slender. S-L-E-N-D-E-R.
Slender.
Yes. Maybe. Okay, so what the word needs? Well, I took a look at myself and I need something. And the word needs something is to get slimmer. Right? So, what the world needs is to have an easy way to get slim. So, what we've done is took the bottle of water. That's the bottle of water. And we put special chemicals in it that doesn't harm the human, but it's make you slim and easy. And it's so good that it doesn't have any taste or any smell. And you can try it right now. It doesn't have any taste or any smell. It's purely natural, as you can see, and it's purely clear. But there's chemical in it that make you slim. So, what's special about us? We are the only company who sell water that makes you slim with less effort. And for example, the demonstration. Now, this is before drinking water. And this is my copy after drinking water. And this makes you all, as you can see, is custom-made shirt as ArabNet. So it's very good. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We have 5 minutes left. You want to come up? We have 5 minutes left, so I know there's a couple of people in the back that haven't spoken yet, like Tahoe, right? Sorry.
Hi, everyone. So we thought about what the world needs, and we realized it's a hangover cure. So this bottle of water has twice as many H2O atoms as your normal bottle, which means half the recovery time. And you also can avoid normal hangover cures such as greasy food or coffee. That's it.
So our idea was we are providing water that comes from one source water. And the idea is the promise of radical transparency. You know where the water comes from, how many bottles we sell, and where we sell them. That's about it.
Great. Awesome.
Where's this going?
Who's next?
You're up.
Our water is called Relive, and it's from Lake Tahoe, which is by far the purest and most beautiful lake in North America. So only our water would make you pure and beautiful, obviously. That should do it. What else do you want to put in there?
Was there something about...
And it gets you back to life.
Was there something about no boats on the lake?
Yes, and Lake Tahoe has, we think, we haven't verified that, but we think it has no motorized boats, etc. So it's pure, it's very pure, there's no oils in the water, etc.
Awesome.
There's tons of boating, but they're electric.
Awesome. Thank you. The gentleman in the back? Are you? No? Anyone else? Is everyone gone? I can go for one. Oh, sure.
This one is actually a hangover water as well, but this one that actually gets you a bit tipsy without actually having to buy it for an expensive price, and you can find it anywhere. So.
Awesome, thank you. Well, thank you guys. Some pretty awesome ideas. So I hope this kind of gave a bit of substance to what I was talking about. In a sense, the idea behind doing this exercise wasn't exactly to maybe come up with a multi-million-dollar winning idea, but it was to get you thinking about what brand means and the kind of emotional connection you could have with a brand, even something as mundane as water. And the hope here is that if you can bring yourself to brand something like water, and if you have quite a powerful idea, you should be able to brand anything.
I have a question.
Sure. Questions?
So, how can startups boost the growth of their brand at the early stages?
Okay. So how can you increase the growth rate of your product? Okay. Well, I mean, there are a lot of factors in that, but from a branding perspective, I guess a lot of the times in the beginning is consistency. So consistency, regardless of how good or bad you're doing, is key. At the same time, you actually need to know when to change as well. So a lot of startups end up creating things and sticking with them without bouncing stuff back from the market. It's very important, as a lot of things have done, like Facebook, for example. They've shifted a lot since they first started and made things more important. The more popular things were more important than the others. That gave things relevance. So I think remaining relevant is a key from a branding perspective.
And should they associate
Sure. I mean, again, it depends on. Not necessarily. I mean, it actually depends on what you do. If you're a company that is sort of Twitter for Arabia, for example, that doesn't necessarily mean you need to do social good. You're a utility in your own right. Do you get what I mean?
Do you think that doing social good will help the brand?
Social good always does help. But again, it doesn't make sense for you to do social good if you're just doing it for the sake of it. It actually needs to be making a difference.
I have a comment actually. Correct me if I'm wrong. Everyone was sizing on the product, not on the brand, except the guy selling. So.
Not necessarily, actually. Actually, everyone here focused on the brand. In terms of product, what do you mean? What's the differentiation?
There's a difference between the product and the brand.
Right.
The product, let's say water, healthy water, etc. But the brand, the background of the product, like creating a certain lifestyle or a certain identity of the product, not only the product itself.
Right. Well, I don't think anyone. I mean, they kind of focused more on the design side of it. So they focused more on the name. They focused more on what it felt, that sort of thing. The vast majority of people actually focused on the proposition. So they looked at, for example, the artist example was pretty powerful, where you took water, but you made it relevant to something completely different. So it wasn't more about the product.
Design is also like, it's under the brand, but when we do this one, this shape, it's Coca-Cola.
Right.
It's the design of the product. So also add into the brand, the design.
The design is part of it, but I think what's more important or what's more powerful about the brand is the core idea. So it could be related to the product, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. Do you get what I mean? Yeah.
How do you actually measure the power of a brand, especially if you're a startup and your impact is a bit limited?
Right. So we're running out of time. So this is going to be the last question. Please come up if you have any others. The way you measure the value of a brand, is that your question?
The impact of the brand. Like, if, for example, you're starting to get so many users and generate revenues and everything, but there is more potential for the brand to grow, and you don't know that. So how do you measure the brand is connecting with the users
in the right way? Well, okay, obviously, big data is a big thing now. Big data is quite a powerful tool when it comes to startups. Big data is becoming a lot more accessible. So when you have a lot of user-generated information, so information about your users and their sort of what they lean towards within your environment, let's say your website, that should be a very strong indication as to where your business is going and whether or not your brand's doing the right job. So if more people are leaning towards one side of your service than the other, then that means there must be something that needs to compensate. Something has to give, something has to, you know what I mean? So it has a lot to do with you evaluating the amount of information that's coming in. And especially as a startup, you need to look more about what's coming in than what's going out. I think that's the key at this stage. No right answers, again. Okay, thank you so much, guys. You were awesome.